Welcome,
Oh,
welcome,
Flow
welcome.
Riders. Oh my God. Welcome to another edition of the Flow. You know what it is. It is that time, y'all, for a little bass, a little drum to cool your soul. All right, we're gonna do our thing today. We have specially guests, many of which you who know, whatever. Okay, so starting off today like that, many of you know him. Wow, many of which you know, gangster. All right, cool.
It's because
Anyway,
we haven't done our countdown yet. You haven't shooken it out and done your
Yeah, I
countdown
guess.
yet.
I guess. Oh my God, that is just way too funny. Actually, no, this is our first flow back at Oh Dark 30. So yeah.
Oh, so we have to be patient with Doc because even though, as George pointed out, it's the first day of spring, it's still very early for Doc. So we have to give some
Yeah.
patience today.
Now I have to go back to waking up at like 5:15 for flow
Ugh.
days.
Oh,
So, thank you, United States Congress, for allowing us to waste another hour. Anyway, we're going to get into the thing. You guys know what it is. If you have any questions, drop them down into the commenty section below. And yeah, any other announcements we need to inform people of?
yeah, a couple big announcements.
Okay,
Registration
let's
for
move on.
Leap is open while Doc searches for stuff. If you swing on over to leap.ecamm.com, you can get all signed up. And this year is going to be pretty cool because we're going big picture. So all this like organization and systems and process that we've been talking about, we're going to learn from some of the best. So I'm ready. I'm ready to, to make improvements. Hopefully you will all join us for Leap. So leap.ecamm.com coming up in about a month. Just over a month.
It's crazy how quick these things come upon thee. But yeah, it's wow. It's crazy. It's already about to turn into April, which means it'll turn into May, June, July, August, September. Then it's October, everyone's
It's
favorite
yeah.
weekend month. We're gonna have to
Actually, if
get
you
the
want to get
governor.
really excited, you could also go to ecamm.com/camp. It's still a placeholder, but it's got a countdown on it. So you could like count down and get excited with all of us over at that link if you want to. So yeah, big things coming. But those are my two announcements.
Camp is coming. I'm so excited. I'm so very excited, as Borat would say. All right, let's get this thing twisted. Sorry, I decided right after Luis says, "Okay, we're good." Then I was like, "I can't see through
I
these
know you showed
glasses.
up without your
What's gonna
glasses and
happen?"
it was very like shocking to me. I'm like, wait, what?
Wait.
threw me for a loop.
There you go.
Okay.
All right, let's kick it off. I'm gonna hit this water real fast. I swear it's water.
All right, I'm gonna do coffee because I'm me.
Mm.
Mm.
I didn't want to make coffee yet. I didn't have to wee. Mm. Don't drink water with little pieces of ice in it right before. Okay, there we go. Just swallow the ice. Whew, now I'm gonna have cold inside. Let's go, people. And we're gonna blow it out. Cut it down in 5, 4, Threx, twice. Aloha, Flow Riders, and welcome to another edition of The Flow. I am your host, Doc Rock, along with my awesome co-host.
Hey everyone, it's Katie.
That's my favorite part. I don't know why it cracks me up every time. Oh, we have awesome guests today, Case. Let's talk to folks about it.
We sure do. So if you don't know Ian yet, you must be crazy. You need to know Ian. Ian, I think, is probably one of the first people I met when I jumped aboard the Ecamm team, into the Ecamm fam. And Ian actually has been podcasting for quite a long time. And he was the host of we did an entire podcasting series well before we ever launched the Flow called the Podcaster Hour that Ian hosted. So I think I know like most of what I know about podcasting comes from either Doc or Ian. So it's great that we're going to be all together today. But Ian Anderson Gray is here. You can find all of his stuff at iag.me. Right? I'm thinking so. We'll have to bring him on. I had a moment of blanking out. Ian, you got to let us know your website address. iag.me.
That's
Spacing
it.
for a
That's the
moment.
one.
All right, good.
IAG.me.
I had a moment of doubt.
Well done.
You know what's funny is also one of the first people I met when I started using Ecamm and went to the very first leap. And I just remember I made a comment to him. I was like, "Oh, it's Notorious IAG," and he was like, "What's that?" And I was like, "Oh my god, we can't
He's
be
like,
friends."
who is this
He
guy?
doesn't know who Notorious B.I.G. is. And I was like, "Oh god, I don't know about this guy." And then he goes, "Hey, I'm from Manchester." I was like, "Done. He's in." That was the end of that was the end of that hate fest. And it turns out he's an awesome cat to know. Like Ian is literally one of the best. So
Oh, and huge congratulations to Ian because he just launched another podcast this week. So before we jump in, you should just give us a minute to let us know about your newest podcast so we can all go over and listen.
Yeah, thanks. Yes, well, you'd think just one podcast was enough, but I
Yeah.
decided to launch another one as well, and it's all on ADHD. It's called Smart ADHD because a lot of people in the entrepreneurial space
Mm-hmm.
have ADHD, and it's something that I was diagnosed at age 46 and had a
Wow.
big impact on me. And I've learned loads, but I'm not an expert. So, but the great thing about having a podcast is you can invite all the experts onto your show,
Yeah.
and I've got some amazing experts. So I mean, I'm always fascinated with psychology and learning and all that kind of stuff. So it's for smart individuals with ADHD, creatives, entrepreneurs, business owners, and we're going to be going down that rabbit hole. And I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be great fun.
Yeah, I'm really excited to and I love the logo. I think you've just done a great job with it. So I definitely have it on my to listen list, and I'm excited to see what you do with that one. So
Thank you.
listen,
I would say my first
no,
question off the right off the top, Ian. So I'm so grateful that you came on, and I last minute just had this moment because I was on your show recently, your other show, the Confident Life Marketing Podcast, and you've just recently changed your format, and I was like, oh, we should bring Ian on to talk about the different kinds of podcasting formats and how you think it through. But before we jump into all of that, I'd love to know how long you've actually been podcasting for, because to me it feels like my whole journey you've been there podcasting. So how long has it been?
Well, I did have a podcast back in 2012. It was called the Social Media. I can't even remember what it was called. It was like Social Media News. No, that was it. The Seriously Social News show.
Oh, okay.
And it was talking about all the latest news in social media.
Mhm.
But I think I lasted about 28 episodes. But the
That's
problem
impressive.
I had was being a recovering perfectionist. I edited it, I researched. It basically would take me like 2 days to do. Well, not quite, but almost. It felt like 2 days. And the issue with that was then I had to then do it next week. And the even bigger issue was that it was out of date by a week. A week later. So it wasn't
Yeah.
really evergreen content. So when I launched my Confident Live marketing show podcast in 2019, I had a big focus on it being evergreen. I wanted it to be evergreen. I also wanted it to not just be a podcast. I wanted it to be a live show and a
Mhm.
blog, because I firmly believe we all have different preferences with the way we consume content.
Mhm.
And I actually really like reading blogs, and I like listening to podcasts. Sometimes I like listening to watching live shows, but I don't always have the time to do that. So I wanted to do all of that, and that's what I did when I relaunched the show. I went with those three formats for the first 212 episodes or whatever it was. I think it was all done in those three formats.
Yeah. I know. And I feel like when you first started the podcaster hour for us, that was like one of the big takeaways, because you and I are really similar in almost every aspect. I feel like also a recovering perfectionist. I also
Yeah.
really love like being able to actually read through like blog posts and like consume a podcast episode through reading as well as listening. And I'm constantly bouncing around. So live shows actually tend to be difficult for me to watch all the way through unless I've like really like committed to sitting in the live chat and engaging with people. So I hear you on that. And yeah, I'm definitely the person that's like, oh, I need to do better with editing, which is why I love the format that we do with this show, because it forces
Yeah.
us and forces me to not have to hand that off and not think about that, which makes it easy.
And that's the other reason. That's why I think I went with live. Well, the first thing the whole show is about, excuse me, about how to be confident with live video.
Mhm.
But it's the perfect antidote to recovering perfectionists, because live video can't be perfect. It's just, you have to turn up, you have to do it. And it was like a baptism of fire, really, because like I could have called myself the reluctant live video guy. Like, live video for me was not the natural place for me to go, but I'm so glad I did, because I've learned I've had this real confidence journey. It's allowed me to produce content in a much better way. You've also got it. You've got to really think about the 3 different audiences as well when you go live. So you've got your replay audience, because they get bored really easily if you start talking to like the live people.
Yeah.
But you've got to think about the live people, because the live people get really sad if you don't talk to them.
Yeah, exactly.
And then if it's a podcast as well, you've got to think about the listeners, because they can't see what's on the screen. But it's interesting that with my Confident Live show, when I did do it live, I was getting people watching it live and then listening to the podcast and then watching the video, or listening to the podcast and then watching the video, or going back and forwards. It's really interesting. You kind of think that those 3 audiences are in different camps, and they just consume that, but they don't. And I'm sure that's the case with all of us. I mean, I think some of us will read blogs and then we'll pop over and listen to a podcast, and maybe we'll watch something. So it's good to have it in those different formats, I think.
Yeah,
absolutely. It's a triumph. Giving people what they want and meeting them where they are, sort of situation, because you're giving them the opportunities to find you in a way that works for them. I'm still trying to fight people off of this. I'm a video person. I'm an audio person. Like, no, you're not. You're all of the above. That thing has screwed up so many people, because there's people that die hard believe that, even though there's thousands of papers that completely debunk that, there's people that still believe that, because it gives them an excuse to not be good at something. And it's funny, because you said one of the things, for instance, you did your format on the confidence situation, which so many people Google. It's kind of crazy. It's one of the most Googled things when it comes to a personality trait. And the funny thing to me about confidence is it legit is a light switch. And at some point in time, someone gave you the switch and turned it off for you, and you've never found the ability to turn it back on. And then other people, they were turned on a little bit too early, and they can't find ways to turn it off when they need to, right? I really, really, really believe it is a 100% binary thing. So growing up with the grandpa who, I'll put it in British terms, he was definitely a Savile Road type cat. My grandpa was clean, 3-piece suit, hat, glasses, everywhere he went, he was flawless. And I remember I first kind of heard the word, I'm like 8 or 9 years old, and I remember asking my grandpa, like, what does it mean if someone says you don't have confidence? He goes, oh, they're just trying to hold you back because they're afraid that you're going to beat them. And I was like, what? And he was like, the person that told you that is telling you that because they don't want you to be better than them. So if they can scare you by making you think you're not good, then they win. And I was like, well, how do I get confidence? Can we like buy it or whatever? And he's like, no, you already have it. Just don't let anyone take it away from you. Imagine getting told that at 8 or 9 years old. Never. That's why I don't mean to be an a-hole. I was tripped out when people say, oh, I don't have any confidence. I'm like, yeah, you do. You just turn it on. Like it's not something you purchase. I don't think you need to train it. I don't think you just need to do it. Like there really is, it is not a muscle. It is a binary situation. You turn it on and turn it off. Yeah. But a lot of people get it taken away from them from somebody, and they have to find that root. And I was doing this workshop back when I was in this trainer type situation, and they had everybody like close their eyes and think about the voice. Find the voice, whoever turned it off for you. And for most people, it's way back, and it's a parent or a grandparent that said something to you when you were a kid, which is why I tell all of my friends, do not tell their kids they're shy. That word, just never even put it in their vocabulary, because you royally screw them.
Yeah. I mean, that's all like so helpful stuff. And I think it does tend to happen with us at an earlier age, and the older you get, the more you kind of like have that internal dialogue, like, oh, you're shy, you're no good. And a lot of it is the judging. We don't want to be judged. We're worried about what people.
We're worried about what people think. Yeah.
Yeah, I was talking with a friend of mine, and she was saying that she has this quite a big, loud laugh, and she was with some people who she didn't know, and because she's quite an intuitive person, she just noticed, like when she laughed for the first time, that one of the women there kind of flinched slightly, and because she's intuitive, she then she kind of retreated into herself and tried to kind of like subdue that side of it. And I think a lot of us do that. I remember doing that myself. I was worried about putting the real me forwards. It wasn't like I was not being authentic, but I think that's the problem is we're comparing ourselves to others and we're worried about being judged. And the only way is just to, as Doc says, to go live. It might be that for some people, though, I do want to put this out. For some people, the struggles and the hurt from the past will be so strong that going live is not the best place for you. Like, just you need to kind of go on a slower journey. And obviously, I'm not a psychologist, but what Doc said there is so true. We do all have that confidence. It's just that we've unlearned it somehow, and we can learn it. We can relearn it. And I do believe, like for me, live video was part of that journey for me.
Yeah.
You know what's funny is if you go back to think, when was that first time in school when you got called to the blackboard, or I don't know what you guys call it. We call it chalkboard. Whenever you get called to the blackboard, and the first time you went up there and you didn't know what you were doing, that might be the first time you unconfidenced yourself and didn't even know it, right?
Yeah,
You
probably.
were super embarrassed. You were wrong, and you went up there and you just kind of made a butt out of yourself, and the whole class laughed at you. A lot of people have never recovered from that. They don't even remember that they've never recovered from that. So yeah, it's really funny how these things all find their situation. So now going from doing a live show and you know, just like you said, there's some people who are just not going to go live, right? No matter what we tell them, no matter how much we tell them, it's easy. And oh my God, Tommy posted this really epic clip from Kelly and Mark and their whole studio sideways live on air. It was super funny. They were getting like all kind of extra voices. Lights were doing all kind of weird stuff. And you know, his thing was, even with billions of dollars of equipment, it can go crooked. Like
things can happen,
right? Yeah, I remember the Super Bowl a couple years back. Anyway, so how would you get someone who's on a recording train to sort of work out some of these kinks because they're just not going to go live?
Well, so like you talk about people who are worried about the tech going wrong and that's preventing them from going live?
Yeah, because even that's people. I mean, just the recording side. Even if you're recording, like, I still feel like some people are a little bit sort of in a funk because they're trying to figure out a system. And obviously, you got the system down. So, regardless of live recording, what would you say is the best way to start your system, if you will?
Yeah, well, I think the getting the good tools and gear in place is certainly a really good start. So, like, if you're trying to go live or record on a computer that is just not fit for purpose, which is kind of what I was doing. Like back in 2016, I had this really old Dell laptop, and I was firing up OBS Studio, and it was just dying a death, and it doesn't exactly fill you with confidence. And then I was using other software. This is all before Ecamm was a thing, and you, in order to create a scene where you go live, you didn't just have to put the webcam on. You had to put the microphone on. There was different layers. You had to put the camera layer, and then you had to remember to put the microphone layer. And I remember going live and forgetting to put the microphone layer there, and so no one could hear me. Get software and a decent computer that you can be confident in. But then really, it's a case of finding people who are going to support you, like a team of people, like friends who are going to support you. You could go live, say, in a Facebook group to begin with those people. Just test it out. And I would say just go on with a friend and have a chat, because that's what we're doing now. I remember, I'm going to show my age here. Like, I remember Google Hangouts.
You're in the safe space.
Do you remember Google Hangouts on air?
Yeah.
Yes. Some of my first shows.
Yeah. This is going to sound ridiculous. I was asked to go on to a Google Hangout on air. This was live video back in the day, and I was absolutely petrified. I look back at that, Ian, now, and I think, what what was going on in my head.
Oh
I was
yeah,
just
what was I scared of?
I was so worried about being, I don't know, just making a mistake. But you've got to start somewhere. And if you, at the end of the day, what we're doing at the moment is we're just having a conversation. Just imagine that you are in a coffee shop somewhere having a chat, and that's kind of what it is. So, and the best thing to, and I also think you need to kind of reframe the way you think about things going wrong, because actually, I can't even believe this has come to I've come to this point, but I'm really glad. I now actually like when mistakes happen.
Same, yeah.
For two reasons. First of all, it has a, you know, as long as it's not horrendous, people like that. It shows your humanity. But second of all, it means I can, and maybe this is a recovering perfectionist thing, but it means I can kind of perfect my checklist and my processes. I can think, I forgot to do that. I need to remember that for next time, and I can put it in my list. Like I used to forget the last thing. I always have this thing at the end of my podcast, like I'm going to forget it now actually, but I always have this little saying at the end. And what I find is when you press the go live button and when you're at the end, often my brain just goes to mush, because like there's something that happens with the go live button. It kind of enters your brain and you go, what do I say? Oh, I forgot my name. So I actually have that written down in front of me so that I don't forget. Like I don't usually forget my name, but and so I have the beginning and the end. And so I think so. What I'm saying there is you're not going to learn these things if you don't go live.
Yeah.
And the other encouraging thing is look at other people's first lives. Like I'm sure, I don't know, Doc, whether your first ever live video is out there somewhere.
We did. We shared it. We shared before and after, both Doc and I and a couple other people, like our first and our most recent. I'll have to find it to resend to everyone.
Man, trash. I gotta find those. I know I have screen caps of those Google Hangouts on Air Joints around somewhere. Yeah. I'll pull those suckers out. Like, oh my God, they were funny. You just look, he just said something. I want to make sure we keep this. Listen, I want everybody to do this. This is going to be a task for you. Right now, in my show, this particular show, the first scene is the countdown.
Mm-hmm.
Right? In many shows we do, the first scene is a countdown. On my personal show, I threw the countdown out a year and a half ago, would never bring it back. Countdowns are dumb. But make your first scene the freaking checklist.
Yeah, that's actually a really fun
idea. That's a good idea.
Now you have no choice but to see it. Because what a lot of us have done, I'll take the hit, have the checklist. I've done it so many times. Oh, I got this, you know?
Yeah.
But that's exactly how you leave your dang keys, right? Yep. And many of the men in the place, you know, I don't know how girls do this, men do. You go out and you go left pocket, right pocket, back pocket. I'm going phone, wallet, keys. And then I do that real quick to the lights, and then I walk out the house. And now that is emotion. It happens at the hotel. It happens anywhere. Left pocket, right pocket, back pocket, walk out. So you can barely forget your keys, right? I think your first scene should be your dang checklist, because my last scene is my mechanicals, my fonts, my colors, my size, you know, my audio settings. I actually have that written as my last scene, and I teach that in the demo every Friday. So, Neil, if you make that video before I make the video, Neil, I'm going to hurt you. Neil will be right back. I was like, man, I'm going to see Neil's video in like the next 30 minutes. I'm going to be mad.
Well,
Thank you.
I want to talk about, because I love the live conversation, but I think it fits us into really nicely, because Ian, you made a shift recently in your show. So in the Confident Live Marketing Podcast, where you were doing it really kind of similar to our format, where it's a live to tape format, and you have a live audience, and then you were editing and then releasing it at a later point. So why the change, and what is the change, so that everyone kind of understands where you are now and what motivated it?
Yeah. So, well, first of all, what the change is. So I used to go live once or twice a week. And that would allow me to get a good batch of maybe 5 or 6, because although I was going live twice a week or 1 to 2 times a week, the podcast was once a week. And I just occasionally, like being British, like I like to have holidays and vacations and all that kind of stuff. So like, I need some time off. So that was really important. But also, like, I was demonstrating live video on how to go live and the benefits of that. And so, but the switch now is that I'm switching into seasons. So the season at the moment, we're focusing on tech and gear, and we're going behind the scenes. So it's great to go behind the scenes in your studio, Katie.
Yeah.
And I'm also keeping them really quite short, aiming to keep them about 20 to 25 minutes. Whereas before they were kind of like an hour long, and sometimes even longer than that. And so now what I'm doing is I'm really making them very, very focused. I introduce the guest, but then we're going straight into the questions, and we're keeping them really, really short and punchy like that. Now, before I go into the why, I want to say that I did have a little bit of kind of reticence about this, because I was thinking, look, my show is the Confident Live marketing show, and I'm not going live anymore. And I remember talking to people about this, and they said, look, you've gone live for 212 episodes. I think you've demonstrated that you know your stuff about live video. I think it's okay to do this. And so once we got over that, the reasons for me doing this are because I felt that, first of all, I needed to change, and I think that's important. When you feel that you want to do something different, I wanted a new challenge. Second of all, I feel that my audience wanted something. They just wanted the meat, and they wanted something short, not necessarily short and sweet, but a little bit like that. And also, and I'm just going to say this honestly, live video is tiring for me. If I do too much, I've got to balance that. Now, my goal with this is that we're going to do the weekly shows, podcasts, but I'm going to do monthly lives, and my lives are going to focus not so much on the content, on the kind of the pillar content, teaching people about stuff. The lives are going to be more community focused, where I'm going to answer questions live, and we're not kind of worried about this becoming a recording afterwards. So I'm separating it out that way, and it also allows me to not worry about have to do it at a specific time with guests and things like that. Now, don't get me wrong, I still see big advantages in doing it the way you guys are doing it and the way I was doing it before. I'm not knocking that format.
Yeah.
But I think at this stage in my podcast, in my show, this feels the right thing to do. And also it's in seasons, as I said. So with the season at the moment, we're doing studio and gear. The next season, so we'll have a little gap, which is okay. It's okay to have gaps. That's the other thing that I'm telling myself, because before I felt it had to go on and on and on. But then the season after that, we're going to be focusing on communication and confidence. So it's focusing on that. And then who knows what's going to happen after that. And the cool thing about this is I've set up a whole process. I use Notion for this, and we've got a whole process for every single element of the production and the post side of things. But as you just said at the beginning, I've launched this other podcast, which is a huge undertaking. But all I needed to do is just copy those processes, tweak them a little bit, because there are often differences. But again, with the Smart ADHD podcast, it's very similar. I'm doing 20 to 25-minute episodes. There's one slight difference, though. So we're doing those small episodes, but I'm also going to be doing very long-form episodes as well, because the short episodes are going to be with experts, focusing on addressing a myth or talking about something like that. But I'm also going to be interviewing entrepreneurs, creators, and hearing their story. And this is going to be just sitting back, talking, long form, going into detail, conversation. And I'm seeing this kind of trend. We see this on YouTube. Some of the videos, some of the podcasts that people are listening to, they're like 2 to 3 hours long. Whatever you think about Joe Rogan, his podcast is like epic in terms of the length of each episode, and the people who listen to it love it. And there's a lot of other ones like that. And so I want to go deep with the long form, but I also want to go deep in the shorter form as well, and do both. So that's a kind of a long answer, but that's the great thing about doing it this way.
I think it's great. And I wanted to bring you on because I know that in particular on this show, obviously we have a really set format. It's one that one that we believe in. It makes sense for us as Ecamm, as representatives of Ecamm, and, talking about the tool and what's possible. But I love that you have been at it for so long and you had a really set process and you were able to think through what was best for you, what was best for your audience, how to achieve those goals, and willing to make that change and then be able to evaluate and go from there. Because I think a lot of people get stuck with, I've committed to this and now I'm going, and maybe it's not working the way they want it to, or they're hearing feedback, and I feel like it's hard to kind of make some of those bigger changes and pivots, and it's easy to second guess ourselves in doing it. So I know here we say a lot, like, just start, get better as you go. But I want to remind everyone that, like, getting better as you go once you start doesn't mean that it's just little tweaks. Sometimes it might be like pausing for a second, reevaluating everything and making a really big change. And that's okay, as long as you're still moving forward, right? As long as you're still kind of keeping the momentum going. So
I just wanted to say one thing. So, like, if I went back and had my time again, I'd still do it the way I did.
Yeah.
I think starting with live video for me was the best thing because it just got me over that perfectionism. It allowed me to, particularly at the time, it just allowed me to connect much more. It's easier, I think, to build an audience with live.
Yeah.
Because you're popping up on Facebook, on YouTube, or wherever you're going live. It's a lot easier to grow that audience. It's much more difficult just to go with the podcasts if you don't have an audience. So I would still do it that way. I learned so much. I wouldn't be able to do what I'm currently doing if I hadn't started with live. Obviously, like, if you're really, really scared of live and it's just not what you want to do, that's okay. But there are some huge advantages with that. And also, like, it is a great way of getting guests. It is scary for some people, but some guests thrive on that as well. So yeah, don't knock it.
Yeah.
Man, there's a post going around from one of our friends that we all know, probably Jennifer Navarrete. She's talking about, like, some of her guests come on the podcast because she's remote producing, right? She says they don't like to see themselves in their own preview window, and we're like, what? Then tell them don't look at it. It's like, but they can't help it because they need to see, this, that, and the third. How do we turn that off? And I was just like, man, listen, you're doing a lot of work. I would fire every one of those people and find somebody else. There's no shortage of people who want to be on your show. There just isn't. There's so many people out there. We just signed up for Podmatch, which is really cool to find people who are willing. Me personally, I don't think it's worth hoops. It's worth the drama of going through the hoops to try to please somebody to come and be a guest on your show. They're coming to your house. I'm telling you, nobody in this chat will wear a shoe in my house. If you come to Hawaii, you come in bare feet. You don't wear shoes in the house in Hawaii. And that's the rule. It's the rule in everywhere in Hawaii, but that's just the rule in general. I'm not going to change the rule because you're Oprah. I'd be like, Oprah, I know you got corns and bunions, but them shoes got to come off, lady. Like, not in the house, right? You have to be strong enough to be like, I'm sorry, you can't be a guest if you can't do this, because I need it to be this way in order to make you look your best. In order to make you shine and make the audience, vibrate with you, I need you to do it this way. And people refuse to do that. Oh, my guests won't wear headphones. Then they're not my guests.
Yeah.
So simple. That is a dumb thing. I'm not coming on your show because I refuse to wear headphones.
Yeah. I totally agree with that, but I also think too that, like, I think sometimes, and I'm guilty of this here and there as well.
You're too
but, like,
nice.
sometimes I'm too nice, yeah. But so I'm definitely guilty of being too nice. But I think sometimes we get, like, so locked too in the format of things that we forget that it, like, a lot of it is squishy, especially these days. Like, so you could technically, like, even with everything Doc just said, and I'm not disagreeing with it, but, like, I could have a guest that's really important to me who is, like, for example, so we're planning Leap, right? And the sessions for Leap are all live. They're all live sessions. And that we did that intentionally. It's worked out really well for us. But there's a couple of speakers who are in Australia, and Ecamm people are, like, above, go above and beyond. And they're like, I'll wake up in the middle of the night and I'll do this session, whatever. And we've figured out a way to work it out for the format. So we're fine in this particular case. But I also would have been totally fine to say, hey, because these folks are in parts of the world where it's really difficult for them to be live at this particular time, I'm going to make an adjustment and we could have a couple of recorded sessions, the event would still be highly impactful and we would still have the same level of success. It could be the same for your podcast episode where maybe there's a really important guest who, for whatever reason, I would push back if it's just nerves, but for whatever reason, they can't, they're not able to do a live format. Doesn't mean that you can't change the format of your show for that particular session or think through how you can do it. So that you're still able to make it work. I guess in the same way where I have a lot of like favorite podcasts that are audio only podcasts right now. And I've been like thinking a lot about people who are trying to make that shift from like, I've had a long-term podcast with audio and I want to move into the video. Doing like what you're doing, Ian, I think is a really smart way for that side to like approach and get into it, where it's like, maybe that's then like an exclusive special, like long form interview that's a YouTube live, or maybe it's like a special event where it's like, okay, podcast listeners, like for all of my Patreon members or membership, we're going to do this like live special Q&A, or like there's I think ways to play with the formats together that could evolve the overall feel of your show. But sometimes we get locked in like,
you
nope,
definitely have
I'm
to
an
do
audio
some
podcaster,
pre-records.
nope, I'm
Well,
that, or nope, I'm like, which is I think you can use both or play with both.
I think being flexible is really important, and I think I'm learning this with the other launch with the other podcast I'm launching, because I think we take this for granted in the space that we're in, because like we've all got good cameras, we're all wearing headphones, we're all being kind of we're all being good, and we got nice microphones like in shots. Like I know Doc might prefer his microphone to mine, but look, it's a decent microphone. The problem is
I have a PR40.
The thing is, like, some of the guests that I'm going to potentially have on the Smart ADHD podcast, then they're not in this world. I might have some experts who really know their stuff, but they're not necessarily used to getting on camera and doing this kind of stuff. And so I've got to, and I can do my best to say, look, could you please wear headphones? Could you like make sure you have a microphone? But the thing is, they're not going to always be able to do that. And so I have to make a decision. Is what they're saying good enough for them to still come on? And this is why actually living at the time that we're living in is really good, because I've had guests relatively recently who have had on a show on a different show, and their audio wasn't that great. It was echoey. Well, I can use AI. I can use the likes of Descript, and it's not perfect. The studio sound is not perfect, but it's good enough to get rid of the echo and the all those kind of things in the background. And if the content, if what they're saying is good enough, then sometimes you just have to, let that fly, because not everyone is technical, and I can say, look, okay, wear headphones, get a decent microphone, but not everyone's going to do that. So I think being flexible with that, being flexible with the time, and although those things matter to me greatly, great audio matters, all those things, I've got to say to myself, Ian, look, okay, not everyone's quite like you. You've got to just let things slip a little bit, and you do what you can afterwards. So I don't know what your thoughts on that are, but it's something I've been thinking a lot about recently.
Yeah, I think it's a balancing act.
It's a way to do this, right? Okay, look, if I had someone who, and I know different places are relatively large, but let's just say I had someone who I wanted to have on a show, and they lived in, I don't know, let's say Pennsylvania, Philadelphia, and they don't have a studio or whatever, but they were just going to be really good. They were going to be a great person to talk to. I really want to get them on the show. I would call one of the people in the network and be like, fam, listen, how's your studio? Is it accessible? I have somebody I really want to record, but they don't know anything I'm just doing. Can you go to them, or can they come to you? Right? If they're in Hollywood, Florida, I can send Luis. I know he has a portable kit. You know what I mean? Like, I'll find a way to work it out. Send them to the radio station. A lot of places have co-working spaces with recording booths. There's WeWorks in so many towns with recording booths. There's no excuse. I'm sorry. Do you have an opportunity? And these headphones, they're $15 for the cheapest pair. Like, I'm just sending it to them. Did it back in the day when we first started doing Twitter. Nobody had headphones and mics. So we always said Logitech C900 back then and a Plantronics headset, and we sent it directly to their place so they could do their thing, and then we just had them box it up and send it back. And so we had like 6 of them that we used to send all over the country. I mean, if it's that, I mean, you have a way to make it good.
It's
You
a
just do.
yeah.
So I don't.
I think sending a microphone, like this is something that I've thought about. Like if, like something like the Samsung Q2U microphone, it's relatively expensive.
Yes.
If you want to get if you're worried about a guest and their microphone setup, send them one of those. Okay, it's going to cost you, but it depends on how much you want. So what I'm saying is there's compromise. There are ways around it, and if you want to know somebody in an area who's got a good studio, just email Doc and it'll get you sorted out.
Connect to the Ecamm fam.
We have the Ecamm fam. It's so huge. There's so many people that would be more than happy to help, and they would learn something too, because they would get an opportunity to do something that's a little bit out of their standard, fare. So I do think there's just opportunity. So yeah. And I agree, Katie. You definitely want to be able to have the flexibility. We've done a pre-recorded show, and I was going to mention this because I mentioned to Whiskey Pig in the chat earlier. Sorry, the Whistle Pig, mixing up things. That's Whiskey Pig is a type of whiskey that is freaking amazing, by the way. Anyway, I had to do a talk this week, and they wanted me to do talk on live video. I'm like, cool, so I'm all ready. And they're like, oh, can you pre-record your session? And the whole time, I could not get the session out because I'm sitting here making a pre-recorded video about live video. This makes about as much sense as screen doors in the submarine. And I struggled through it. I finally got it done. I posted it. We go up. What happens? The platform eats it. So what I ended up having to do? My session live anyway. So sometimes you have to be flexible, straight up.
Yeah, you have to be flexible. And there's sometimes there's reasons for all of that as well. So I love I've been forcing Doc to do more on like podcasting formats, because although I do think that ours is awesome for a ton of different reasons, I think really it comes down to like really understanding what your goals are and not being afraid to make changes for what's best for you as an individual, as the podcast host and producer, and also what's best for the audience. And I think many of us get lost in that these days because there's so many, and particularly with AI tools, but there's so many tools out there and so many people that you're watching that are giving guidance and advice that sometimes it becomes really easy to end up with just like sitting at your desk surrounded by tools and gear and whatever else, and we've forgotten kind of the mission or what's important to us as individuals and what where are the opportunities. So I would think that never make a decision based on just because it's like, well, we're a live streaming tool, so we need to do it live. No, we're doing it live because like we believe in that format and it's important for our audience to engage with us. That may change. Like maybe it changes and we have a different format, or maybe do short clips and then we also do a live episode. We don't know. It's what's best for us. And
large portion of our audience doesn't go live. They just use the tool for other things. So oh my God, that is so good.
There are different ways of doing it as well. So one thing I'm experimenting with this new format is because I wanted to make a big focus on LinkedIn. But the problem is, like, I can upload the video to YouTube afterwards. So I've got the pre-recorded. It's been slightly edited. That's great. I also upload that to Facebook. But LinkedIn, the maximum number of minutes for a LinkedIn video is 10 minutes.
Oh, 10 now. Okay,
minutes,
that was 8.
or whatever it is. It's and so
limited.
I thought, okay, let's try something new. So I did this last week. So I powered up Ecamm. And I went live and I introduced like this is I'm going to play a pre-recorded video of the last Confident Live Marketing podcast. If you have any questions, I'm going to be here in the chat. So I then switched to a scene, played the video, and I went into the chat. And it went completely mad. I can't remember how many people I had live. It was a lot of people. And I had changed the time as well. So this was during the day, UK time. So that might have helped. I don't know. But I think so you've got to be careful with LinkedIn Live, I think. I wouldn't recommend just playing pre-recorded videos, but the fact that it was kind of like a hybrid, so I was starting it off, I think that's a good way. So try.
And you were clear about what it was. You're offering something that was beyond just a video. So
And so, like, I know I can see somebody's asked a question about Instagram, and I think I used to basically multi-stream everywhere. I went to Facebook, YouTube. I even went to like Twitch and all these other places, and I think that was useful for me to learn how it all worked. And at the time, I think it worked really well. But now I want to be a lot more intentional. This is my view now. I'm going to go live just to LinkedIn, and I think with my community live, I haven't quite decided yet. But again, I think that might be LinkedIn and possibly one other place, probably YouTube. I don't know, or maybe just LinkedIn. I haven't quite decided. And I think with Instagram, I would just go live to Instagram. And I think particularly because you have to stream in portrait, that makes it easier, because going portrait, you could go portrait everywhere. But so just because you can doesn't mean you should. And I think multi-streaming is great. Don't get me wrong, but I think it's good for certain things. It's absolutely great. I helped out with we had this 24-hour party for this book launch. I was involved with this book called the Most Amazing Marketing Book Ever that Mark Schaefer co-wrote with 34 authors, and I wrote one of the chapters. And we had this 24-hour live stream, and for that, it totally made sense to go live lots of places, because it was like a party, and I had that kind of party thing. But you don't have to do that for everything.
Yeah. It comes down to intentionality. I couldn't agree with you more. I think it's really like thinking through again, like what are your goals? What are the best what are the best places to be able to accomplish that? Like, what is the best format to be able to accomplish that?
Yeah.
And again, I love that you've been at it for so long that now you're in this like amazing place where you know what each of those platforms is going to do, you know what each of the formats is going to do. So now you're able to really like implement and test and see what's working and not working. So if you're watching this and you're like not there yet, like it just takes time and practice to get to that point. But then once you're there, then yeah, it's absolutely a matter of being able to kind of figure out what works best and what works best for you. It's going to be different for everyone. So what works great for Ian may not work at all well for us, may not work well for anyone watching. So yeah, it's an interesting space, that's for sure, because there's lots of flexibility, but you really need to know what you want to get out of it and what's best for your audience.
And it's funny, like we have, the multi-streaming is one of our features that everyone absolutely loves. And I will say time and time again, as good as it is, you should not multi-stream. And it's two things. One, it bifurcates the audience, and being that one person in the stream by yourself when you're hearing everybody else having a party, that's disconcerting to the mind.
Yeah.
Right. When you're the one guy on LinkedIn and there's 400 people on YouTube, you just feel left out. And yeah, you could go to YouTube. Some people don't get that right away. So they're like, what is he talking about? This thing is fake. There's not all these people in the chat. Who is this Dan? Where's he coming from? Where's Casino Game? Who's Hank Russell? Like, because you can't see them. So you think this person is faking. So you think you're doing yourself cool because you're making yourself be everywhere somewhere people can see you. That's what you're doing it for. Let's be honest. But the audience will feel weird when they're the one or two people in this one spot and everybody is somewhere else. So I think that's bad. And the second part is behavior on every one of the platforms is different. You have no way to genuinely be on YouTube and on Instagram and on Facebook at the same time. The behaviors are completely different on all three platforms. So people will do it because they cannot stop the vanity, but I honestly don't think you should do multi-stream.
Yeah.
It's just, I think that keeping your audience together in one spot, and if you lose them because they're one person's somewhere else, at least you won't make them feel odd.
Yeah. Or like, again, like think through the format. So Anna and Fulgens have been doing this really, I think, clever format where they do their tech check for their shows. So they do 2 live shows a week with us, but both those shows in the like 30 minutes before the show goes live on YouTube, they do a tech check on LinkedIn where they're like LinkedIn live and they're getting ready and they take questions and they run through their scenes and so that people know what a tech check sounds and feels like. They're, checking and make sure everything is looking and sounding good, but it gets them into a different platform. It's a different experience and it teases where people can find the show later. So there's so many options, I think, out for all of us. It's kind of cool.
Could you imagine someone sleeping on YouTube? They do it on Twitch, but you're not going to go live and sleep on YouTube. I just don't think that's going to be the same thing they do on Twitch. But people do it on Twitch, like they go live and they go to sleep. I'm like, why do people watch people sleep and donate money to them sleeping? Hey, but you know what? Hey, whole different thing.
It's like there's like you can watch 8 hours on YouTube of brown or white noise, it just to help you concentrate. Like people upload these things, so nothing surprises me these days. Like
No.
Yeah, those are good. Actually, a couple of our people did relaxing piano music channels where they would just play, music, and then I was like, that's stream running. It works pretty good. So you'd be amazed. All right, I guess the one other question that we sort of have is, you mentioned this thing about batching. Listen, I have a struggle with that one because I think I'm very timely and I like to be on the energy of the time. But I definitely many times I'm thinking to myself, oh, I wish I had a batch something because I need to post something and I just don't, today is a day where I need to go like make a sandwich and a cup of coffee and don't move. So like how would you help me shake the whole batching thing? And it's funny, and the reason why I say this, I did a format the other day where I recorded and I said what I had to say in the beginning. It was supposed to be 20 minutes. It's 38. And then I did my Q&A at the end. I chopped it yesterday in scenery because, hey, Ecamm. And one of my top 5 things that I learned from being a creator over the last couple of years, and one of them was be flexible, and it came up today. And this is really, really funny that both of you guys said that, but I think that's the big one. I think everyone has to be flexible, be ready to change at any given moment in time, because my flexible statement was based off of April 22nd. Hey, can't go live in my group anymore. Now what are you going to do? Nothing, just move. It's not that hard, right? You send an email, hey, people, we got to move. And if they're your audience the way you say they are, then they'll move. No one will blink an eye. But if you were, smoking mirrors the last couple of years, you will be found out. So that's it. Anyway, how do you make me batch? Help me.
Well, the first thing I would say is like we're all different. So like what works for me isn't necessarily going to work for you. But like this summer, we're going to Canada for 2 weeks. Like, and I want to make sure that I'm not, when I'm out there, I'm stressing around trying to, edit video. So, and I think the other thing that I find, the way I work is that I will get into the zone. If I can kind of say 1 day a month or 2 days a month, I can get in the editing zone and I just hyper focus and I get it done. That works really well for me. Whereas if I have to do like an hour editing on 1 day and then I have to do it the next week or whatever, I just find just batching it all works really well. And also, like, if you have a team of people, so I have a virtual assistant who I can, and that's why we've got it all in Notion. We've got every single step. So I will edit. At the moment, I'm editing the video. Then she will go in, she'll correct any obvious errors in the transcript. So it always misspelled Descript. You need to have a chat with Descript because it keeps on misspelling Ecamm.
Oh, they also misspell their own name too.
There you go. And it misspells me as well.
Oh, there you go. Yeah.
Spells my name. It's just outrageous, but it's just like, so like there's all these little steps. And I suppose it depends on like how much you want to do. I think if you batch and if you have all these processes, you can do so much more. So like with this system, I can now get like a full blog post. I've created a custom GPT that I can just give it the transcript from Descript. And because it's shorter, these are 25 minute episodes, it will then turn that into show notes for me. And then I can, and I think I'm okay with it. I'm not a big fan of blog posts generated by AI, but I think with the show notes, I think that's perfectly okay.
It gets close enough.
And then I've got so it just makes every step really easy. And then in terms of like video snippets and all that kind of stuff, the batching side of things just means I can get it done. Whereas if I had to do that, if I had to do a little bit every single day, I think I'd just lose it. I think I just have to get into the flow of it,
Yeah.
See what I did there?
You're also doing a really I love what you did there. You're also doing a really cool thing though that we should shout out that is related to batching. So for your new show, and I know this because I was just a guest, so but you actually recorded 2 different episodes at
Oh
the
yeah.
same time, which I think is really clever. So like if you're going to choose batching as the option, you're going to record your episodes, get clever about it. What was really nice about this as a guest experience was Ian was like, "Hey, this season is all about studios, and then the following season we're talking all about like your journey and confidence and kind of the more
Mm.
strategy big picture side. So here's how much time I need for you to come on, and I have all of these questions for this mini episode, and then we're going to switch and we're going to go into the and it was a really seamless flow. And then you had 2 episodes for the one recording time, but you and then
Yeah.
so you've
I
checked off
forgot- I
next season
forgot-
at the same time.
I'd forgotten about that. Thanks, Katie. Yeah, I forgot that. That was the other advantage in doing shorter ones is like I think most guests are happy like booking an hour, maybe a little
Yeah.
bit more. So
Yeah.
it just means that we can get 2 done
Yeah.
at one time, and then that it's just great because I look at my spreadsheet now and I've interviewed 3 guests. I've now got 6 episodes.
Yeah.
across
Check
2
it.
seasons.
Yeah.
So I
That
think
is
that's
freaking
great.
brilliant.
Yeah, isn't that great?
See,
And like
I told you you were a genius. Why are you playing it? Like, yo, that is brilliant. Oh my god, I'm floored.
yeah. Yeah. And again, like just because again, and I know we're like kind of preaching to the choir here probably, but you can like even if you are live streaming your episodes doesn't mean you can't batch other like processes or batch promo
Yeah.
videos or so there is a lot of like batching and prep that you can do in different ways. So don't think to yourself like, oh, I can't do any kind of like planning or batch processes because my show is a live show. This show is a live show and we do a ton with AI and batching and getting everything into like a saved folder to be able to use in different ways throughout the year. So
I think you need to kind of work out like which is the elements of the show that you want to have on a fixed schedule. Like, so I don't know what it is for you guys, but like for me with the previous version of the show, it was the podcast. I don't necessarily. I think now I would allow myself to be more flexible. But what I wanted to, I made a promise to myself that I was going to make the podcast every single week because I really struggled with consistency, and I'm really proud of the fact that I went from May 2019 to middle of last year without missing one. And the only reason I was able to do that was to batch with the live show. So sometimes I would do 1 per week, sometimes I'd do 2, which always meant I would be able to have enough shows in the bag to be able to have that weekly podcast. So you've got to work out what works for you, what works for your audience. It's got to work for you because at the end of the day, like if you reach burnout or if you get sick of what you're talking about, the audience are going to get a raw deal out of it. So you've got to it's got to work for you. You've got to get a schedule that works for you. But yeah, the batching side of things just frees you up so much, I think.
Yeah.
You know, it's funny. Sally does this thing where she does her show, Sally Cousins, and she batch records 4 1-hour episodes on one day.
Yeah,
And
she has like a recording party day.
Yeah, she does them live. And some people will sit there and come to every single one. Some people are like, hey, I can make one, I can leave, come back. She's still going to be here. I'm going to just pick up value where I can. And she releases those, each additional week on the way through. But she literally batch records all the live streams on one day a month. And I was like, that's a crazy format. But, she has a team. She has her editors to get in there, chop it up. The finished ones are good. The live ones are good. And if you know Sally, she's cracking them laughing the whole time. So it's very energetic. And how she stays, she is just as energetic if you're the first guest or the last. Because I've been on the same day with On Infogence, and she started with them and ended with me because of our time zones. They're closer. And she's still cracking up by the time she gets to mine. And I'm like, girl, like, what level of caffeine do you have? It's different from mine. I need that. But Sally is so awesome. And it's really amazing how, yes, you can do that. So, super, super interesting. And thank you for sharing that. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for joining us today, Ian. And if you haven't yet, please go over and check out Ian's website, both podcasts. you can work your way now through both podcasts. And and hopefully this gives you all some confidence that it's okay to change your mind. It's okay to test and play. You don't have to lock yourself into one format and feel trapped for your entire podcasting journey. There's tons of flexibility and people are doing really cool different things. So keep an eye on what everyone else is doing and see if maybe some of what they're doing might work really well for you.
There's literally an answer to every question you have about doing this stuff, and it's a matter of going to do it. And then here's going to be the crazy part: you are going to get 7, 8 different answers for the same question.
Yeah.
My thing recently has been, at some point you just got to pick one, because this is
Pick
a
one.
you decision. You're
Yep.
literally, not you specifically, but most people are looking for someone to give them the answer that's going to just unlock the thing. But you know what? I've played the game where, there's a walkthrough available online and you just do it. And those games are no fun. The
Yeah.
games that are really fun are the ones that you have to struggle and win, because then when you win, you do the rah, rage yell, and you can go back in. But like, if you just have all the answers, it's no fun. My dad used to have this dumb thing about, like, nobody would ever go to the strip club. You walked in and everybody was just naked. Like, that's not how it works. And I thought that was the weirdest thing, and I never understood the way he said it with
Nudist
his
colony
weird
at that point.
with his weird Korean accent. It didn't make sense, but it does make sense. Like, part of the reveal is part of the deal, right? Burlesque is part of the deal, and it's like no one would just see that, so you can't just. Everyone says, "Well, how come Apple doesn't just release all these products at once?" And because reveal is part of the deal. That's is what it is. So, anyway, thank you. Everybody knows how to find Notorious IAG, as I still
Yeah,
always call him.
iag.me/podcast. Thanks for dropping that into the comments for our live studio audience, Paul.
Did we have anybody from your team was in the chat today? I didn't even look. Did anybody come in to represent their team from Camp CC1 in the building? Anyway,
we had some campers in the chat, and we should say, if you're listening or watching this later, because we are multi-formatted, you can always join our live studio audience. We're here. I'm gonna say most Tuesdays, because we do take seasonal breaks now, so we do take a couple of breaks here and there. But
we're going to
most
be in LA
Tuesdays,
next Tuesday.
yeah, at 12 p.m. Eastern here on YouTube. You can catch the live studio audience, and then you can get your questions answered after the show wraps. So it's a good time. It's a good time.
Oh my God, it's so good. So Eden was on Ian's team. There you go. Do we keep it? I like to buy a vowel. Next time we name the team, I like to buy a vowel. And we just get all the vowel people: Andy and Ian and Eden. Evie, baby. Wait, sometimes Evie.
Sometimes
God,
Evie.
this has been like absolutely freaking amazing. I really appreciate English again. Appreciate you, brother. Like, man, it's really weird how you cross a couple oceans and lose how to speak English. And oh my God, dude, the tea is so good. Like, I'm like halfway through that bag already. It is super
I'm
delicious.
glad you're enjoying it.
Ian says it's the best tea. I've been hoarding it. I'm really bad. My kids were like, "Can I have some tea?" I was like, "I don't have any. There's no tea left."
How about some Arizona 99 cents?
Yeah, exactly. Here, you can have these teas. You can't have.
I'm gonna have to bring out some more, aren't I? Like later this year. We'll see. Yeah.
Right. The funniest thing is, like, he put a big old note on it. Doc, not put any milk in here, and I'm like, oh, okay. So I listen. You smell it. It smells Earl Grey. I like want to do it, but
floral. Yeah.
Not gonna do it. Not gonna do it. Wouldn't be prudent.
No milk. Yeah, some lifting tea for the kids. It's so true. Oh my gosh. Well, we bypassed our final read. So Luis, pop it back up again so we don't have to record it later. There you go, Doc. Onward to you.
All right, gang. If you want to catch the flow, you can find us at flow.ecamm.com. This will take you to our website. Our website is phenomenal, by the way. Thank you, Podpage. You can go there and you can leave us a question. You can leave us a voicemail. You can leave us a review. This also, if you decide you're ready to follow the podcast, subscribe, not the word anymore, it will take you to all of your podcast getting places where you can press the button and make sure you never miss another episode of The Flow. This and every episode of The Flow have been brought to you by our lovely sponsors. And we want to give a big shout out to Captivate. This is where we host our show. Captivate is amazing. There's a lot of places you can host your show, but Captivate will help you grow that sucker. So make sure you go and check out captivate.fm. It is the move. Just trust me, it's the best. Andy in the chat right now is saying it's the best. So listen to Andy if you don't listen to me. You
Always
do
listen
anyway.
to Andy. Always listen to Andy.
Always
Oh
listen
my
to Andy.
gosh. Well, I think
Oh
we
my God, this
answered.
is so
I'm
good.
just scrolling through quickly to make sure we didn't miss any questions. I think we were answering most of them while we went.
We got most of it. I do want to double back on the whole thing about streaming your
Oh,
podcast vertically.
vertically streaming, yeah.
No one has it. I mean, Ian covered it a little bit, but I don't think right now I know of anybody who's doing a vertical podcast. If you want to be first, knock yourself out. But again, I just don't see IG as a place where I'm going to sit down and listen to a podcast. But that's just me. If you can make your audience do it, or your audience tells you that they're ready to do it, that's the answer. I think when these new things come out, sometimes you have to ask your audience, hey, would you guys be down to do a couple test episodes that are like this and see what they say? Because here's the problem with tools. And I just figured this out while Ian was talking about it today. It literally came to my head. I had a full ass visual. I am going to the Home Depot because my Amazon package box knife is running low. So I need new refills for this, right? And Luis will tell you, because he's been to Home Depot with me, I need to go straight to that aisle and get what I came to get and leave. If I don't, more Milwaukee stuff is coming home.
Yeah.
Okay. So the worst thing you can do is walk into Home Depot and not know what you want. It will be very, very, very expensive. Right. That is how these tools are. Remember, so what about this AI tool? What about this AI tool? Listen, what do you need? What are you trying to? If you start looking at the tools with what I am trying to solve, you walk in, you get repaint rollers, paintbrush cleaner, and you will walk out. But if you walk in open-minded, you got a new vanity, you got some stuff for your washing machine, make it smell good. You bought new trash bags. I got all kind of crap. Some of these tools you have unopened in your garage. Every man in here who's a tool person has tools unopened in their garage right now.
Mhm.
Then tell me I'm lying.
No,
So
I think that's
just
true.
think about that and don't do it. If you don't need to do it, don't do it. Ask your audience if they're cool, roll with it. If they say I don't know about that, then don't know it. It's not your show, it's theirs.
It's very true. Very true. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens with the vertical space, but I agree with that. You never know. It's like going to the grocery store when you're hungry. It's true.
100%. Oh my God.
That's
I go to Costco hungry. Costco hungry is evil. Never go stop outside $1.50 hot dog first. Because if you walk in that joint hungry, oh my God.
It's over. It's over. You buy all the tea. You buy too much tea. Oh my goodness. Well, thank you, Ian. And thank you to Flow Riders.
Dude, you guys are amazing. Unrelated, if you're near Costco, get Amy Lou chicken burgers. Amy Lou chicken burgers at Costco are freaking phenomenal. They also sell it at Whole Foods. Anyway, I just thought I'd let you know that. Guys, this has been great. It is on. I will get ready to do some streaming, and we will see you guys in 2 weeks. We don't even have a pre-recorded for next week. Maybe we can hotel one. I don't know.
Yeah, we'll see. We might hotel, but we're not promising. It's all right. We can come back in a couple weeks.
Yeah. I might be drunk. Anyway. Flow Riders, you guys rock. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you, IAG. I appreciate you guys. And everybody, please make sure you're following your email box. I do not want to hear anybody saying, I know about camp. It's coming. It's coming. Just go to the placeholder page and be ready. Just look at it every day because it's coming. We're not going to tell you. We're just going to camp's on. It's going to sell out in 5 minutes and you'll be sad. So be ready. Anyway, guys, you know what we say around here? Flow Riders out.